Hi guys, cinematic recap here. Before we start, warning. Spoilers ahead. Today, I'm gonna explain a British mystery and thriller movie, called Last Night in Soho. The movie begins with the story of Ellie, an aspiring fashion designer who also loves the music and fashion of the swinging 60s. She lives with her maternal grandmother, Peggy, because her mother, who is a fashion designer, committed suicide after struggling with mental illness when Ellie was a child. Oddly enough, Ellie can see ghosts, so she occasionally sees her mother's ghost in mirrors. After that, she runs downstairs to her grandmother to find that she has been accepted into the London College of Fashion. She is very excited, but Peggy warns her wisely that there are a lot of bad people around the area, especially she has a talent for seeing ghosts. Despite all that, Peggy is forced to let Ellie go because it is her dream to become a famous fashion designer. Ellie then packs her belongings and takes the train to London. When she arrives at the university residence, Ellie meets her roommate, Jocasta. They both go with the girls to enjoy their time outside, but while Ellie is in the bathroom, she overhears Jocasta talking bad things about her to the other girls. Therefore, she immediately leaves the group and walks back to her room, but she accidentally spots an old man staring at her and smirking. When she tries to sleep, Ellie finds a party going on outside her room, and meets a young man named John, the only student who is sympathetic to her. Unhappy in the halls of residence, she decides to find a place to live in her own, and after some searching, she ends up moving into a bedsit owned by the elderly Miss Collins. At first, she gives Ellie a set of rules to follow, and wants to get 2 months rent in advance and 2-month deposit because the former tenants have been leaving the house after the first night for no reason. Ellie agrees and does not pay attention to all the rules as she already likes the place. That night, she plays fancy classical music before going to bed. Not long after, Ellie has a vivid dream where she is transported back to the 1960s. She walks into a club called Café de Paris and sees her reflection as a young blonde woman named Sandy. Ellie observes her from the reflection and learns that she is a very confident woman, even she wants to become a singer at the club. Afterwards, Sandy meets a charming club manager named Jack and begins a relationship with him. After they dance together, Jack offers to drive Ellie back to her home, which seems to be the same address as Ellie's. Once there, she finds Sandy getting ready to sleep in her bed, but when she tries to touch her, she wakes up back in the present and concludes that this was just a dream. At her college, Ellie designs a dress inspired by what Sandy wore in her dream last night. On the other hand, Jocasta discovers a love bite on Ellie's neck. Later at night, Ellie goes back to sleep and hopes to wake up in the 1960s again. In the dream, Sandy finds Jack knocking on the door, and he takes her to a singing audition at another nightclub called Rialto. Surprisingly, the owner dazzles with her voice and decides to hire her. Because of this, she happily exits the nightclub with Jack and notices a clothing store while telling him that she will buy a lot of clothes for her new job, before returning to the same bedsit which Ellie has rented. Afterwards, Ellie gets up in the morning and decides to dye her hair blonde as she is inspired by her earlier visions. She goes to Sandy's clothing store and changes her fashion style to match Sandy's, even though the clothes are very expensive. Ellie also uses Sandy as an inspiration for her dress designs, which her teacher seems to like it, while Jocasta just scoffs at her pettiness. After college, she sees the Rialto where she saw Sandy performing last night. Since she is so surprised that what she saw in her dream is in reality, Ellie decides to get a job at a pub. Meanwhile, the old man who observed her from the other night, follows her and claims to recognize her similarities to Sandy because of her hair. In further dreams, Ellie returns to Rialto and discovers Sandy is not living the life she hoped for. She instead performs as a backup dancer for other female performer to entertain the audience. Moreover, Sandy gets into a fight with Jack who tells her that if she wants to be successful in the music business, she has to make certain men happy, which she vehemently denies. Ellie then sees her in the bedroom when a lecherous man enters the room. She screams at him to help Sandy, and he appears to hear her, but at the same time the alarm goes off and Ellie wakes up. The following morning, Ellie goes to college as usual, but this time she is not in the mood because of her experience last night. As a result, she is somehow upset about her designs and starts tearing up the pink dress design which she drew earlier in the class. Luckily, her teacher stops her right away and helps her get through college and work. While she is working at the pub, John approaches her because he is worried after what happened to her this afternoon. In the next dream, Ellie sees that Sandy getting more jaded and unhappy, as Jack forces her to do many bad things, such as prostitution and drug selling. She starts to see memories of Sandy talking to many different men while using fake names. However, Sandy meets a police officer who is kind to her. His name is Lindsay. He tells her that she should leave the club because she deserves a better life, and most importantly, that she needs to get away from Jack before things get any worse, but Sandy does not believe him and ignores his advice. Ellie finally wakes up from her sleep to find herself surrounded by the ghosts of all the men who exploited and used Sandy in her dream. Because of that, she gets tired of not getting enough sleep and goes to her college until late at night because she is afraid to go home. Meanwhile, John finds out that Ellie is looking a bit unwell, so he invites her to a Halloween party. As they dance at the party, Ellie is startled by the ghosts of men surrounding her there. Therefore, John returns with her quickly to her bedsit, where she has another dream of Jack murdering Sandy by stabbing her to death. At the same time, Ms. Collins overhears the noise and orders John to leave, telling Ellie to go to sleep. The next morning, Ellie apologizes to Ms. Collins over what happened last night and asks if there was a woman died in her room, or she knows a woman called Sandy, but Ms. Collins tells her that she does not know anyone by that name. Soon, she goes to college and starts putting the finishing touches on Sandy's dress, but she is terrified when she sees Sandy's body covered in blood. Hence, she runs away from the class while finding herself surrounded by the ghosts everywhere. Ellie ends up bumping into Jack's body, but she finds out that he is the old man from the pub. She then goes to the police station to report Sandy's murder, believing that the old man to be Jack, and that he got away with killing Sandy in the 1960s. However, her report is not taken seriously as the police do not believe her words. Because of this, Ellie breaks down and decides to look for evidence on her own. She goes to the library and searches for all the cases of disappearances and murders in the 1960s, but to her surprise, Ellie finds instead that most of them are stories about local men who disappeared without a trace. Furthermore, these men disappeared after spending the night at a club in her neighborhood, in Soho. John suddenly comes and brings her bag which she forgot with him at the party. She eventually tells him that she can see ghosts and tells him all the things she has been through. By this time, the lights go out and Ellie starts to see the ghosts following her around the library. She attempts to attack one of the ghosts, but fortunately, John stops her to discover that she nearly stabs Jocasta in the face. John runs after Jocasta to explain things, while Ellie leaves in panic. She notices Sandy's ghost on the street and tries to chase her, but she is blocked by all the ghosts. Therefore, Ellie comes late for work and finds that the old man is waiting for her. She quietly takes out her phone to record a confession out of him. When she confronts him about Sandy, the old man angrily denies that he killed Sandy and telling her that Alex killed Sandy, and that whatever happened to her, was something she got herself into. The old man leaves the pub and Ellie runs after him, but he gets hit by a taxi and dies instantly. The pub landlady calls for help, while revealing that the old man was a former police officer named Lindsay, and he has always tried to help girls in his youth. Ellie finally realizes that she was wrong, and the old man is not Jack, but rather the man who encouraged Sandy to escape her life of prostitution. Devastated, Ellie decides to leave London and asks John to help her return to her grandmother's house, to which Jack agrees. They drive to Ms. Collins' house to pick up her belongings. Ellie tells John to wait in the car for 15 minutes, and if she does not come out, she asks John to check on her inside. Ms. Collins welcomes her and tells her that she got some letters of her own, while giving Ellie tea to calm her down. It is revealed that Ms. Collins finds out that Ellie was in the police station because a detective came to inquire about Sandy's murder in her house. At the same time, she reveals that her full name is Alexandra Collins, which is what Sandy told Jack before about her real name. Ms. Collins also explains that Ellie's vision of Sandy's death was in fact a vision of Sandy killing Jack when he threatened her with a knife, as he lied before about making herself a singer, but instead forced her into a prostitution. Not only that, Sandy lured the men who tries to use her back into her room and killed them, hiding their bodies in the house's floorboards and walls. Meanwhile, Ms. Collins reveals that she has drugged Ellie's tea and intends to kill her to ensure her silence. On the other hand, John notices that Ellie is late in the house, so he rings the bell to look for Ellie. Ms. Collins opens the door while Ellie regains enough strength to warn John to run, but Ms. Collins manages to stab him, and Ellie tries to flee upstairs. In the ensuing scuffle, a cigarette from Ms. Collins' ashtray ignites a box of records. Ellie ends up locking herself in her room, where the spirits of Sandy's victims break through the floors and walls, begging Ellie to kill Ms. Collins, but she refuses. When Ms. Collins enters the room, she also sees all the spirits and is slapped by the ghost of Jack, realizing that she has become just as much of a monster as the men who hurt her. With the police outside, she attempts to cut her own throat, but is stopped by Ellie, who tells her that she understands why she killed the men. Ellie tries to help her, but Ms. Collins, as Sandy, chooses to stay in the house, while telling Ellie to save herself and John from the growing fire. Ellie gets out with John as the medics arrive, and Ms. Collins allows the flames to consume her. A few months later, Ellie enjoys success as her dresses are showcased at her graduation fashion show. Her grandmother is there, and so is John, who is very proud of her. The movie ends in the backstage, where Ellie sees her mother's spirit in a mirror as in the past, and then a vision of Sandy, who waves at her and blows her a kiss. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.